Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Elm again. I'm here for our writing lesson. And so we've been writing nonfiction books. And remember, nonfiction books means books that teach others something. So make sure that your books are teaching others something. And I've gotten a lot of some emails about, can this be a chapter book? Yes, because we talked about that the first week. So this can be a chapter book where each chapter is organized into facts. So the past couple weeks I've been writing a book about outdoor fun, and I started a new book on tigers because during my reading at home I've been reading about tigers, and I thought, well, I've read a couple of books about tigers and I remember some things, so I'm going to write what I remember. Now you guys can do this at home. So if you've read online or in a book at home about a topic, maybe tigers, maybe sharks, maybe koalas, you can write about that because now you know about it. The only thing is what I tell my students when we're at school, if I read this book about tigers and I want to write my own book about tigers, I shouldn't be opening my book. My book shouldn't be open while I'm writing because I don't want to copy the words. So I might, if I want to write a chapter about cubs, this chapter is about cubs. I might read this chapter by myself, look at the pictures, read it again maybe, close my tiger book, then start writing my chapter on what I remember. Okay, that's how I make sure that I don't copy from the book. Then you can use your book for pictures if you want to help you draw pictures. Okay, so today in writing, what I'm going to be teaching you today is making sure that you're using author's craft. And remember, that's our fancy word that we learned in school. That means make your books more interesting so your readers don't get bored. So we're going to talk about some ways today to make your writing in each chapter more interesting so your readers want to keep reading your book and so your readers don't get bored. So I have my table of contents. I thought of 2 chapters I could write. So my main topic, my whole book is tigers. So this is my table of contents. So I have 1 chapter on cute cubs and 1 chapter on what they eat, and I called it Mighty Meat. So I want to show you here, I wanted to think about like a fun way to label my chapters instead of just like all about cubs, what they eat. I use this fancy word called alliteration. And alliteration is when 2 words start with this, that are next to each other, they start with the same letter. So these 2 words are next to each other, and they both start with a C. Cute cubs. That's alliteration. So this chapter is going to be about cubs. This chapter is going to be about what tigers eat. But I wanted to use alliteration again. So I use, these 2 words are next to each other, and they both start with M. Mighty Meat. Okay, so that's something that you could try for your headings if you want to. So I'm going to show you my chapter on cute cubs, and I wrote 1 kind of boring chapter, which does have facts, but it's kind of boring. I didn't use any author's craft. Then I wrote a better version, and I made it more interesting, and then I'll show you that. So here's my first time writing about cubs. So I just started writing, what do I remember about cubs? And then I just wrote, cubs are born 2 or 3 at a time. They drink milk when they are babies, then eat meat. So I have good information, right? I have periods, I have capital letters, I have good sentences, but it's kind of boring. So I'm going to show you how to spice it up a little. And I use this chart here, and this chart is on your lesson plans too. It's like a colorful chart. And here are some ways you can spice up your writing. You can draw, include good colored pictures, use labels, use captions. And since you guys are at home, if you have like magazines you can cut out, if you can print off pictures from the internet, you could glue those to your writing, which would be kind of cool. In your sentences, use size words, shape words, and color words. Those are called adjectives to spice up your writing. Remember our comparisons? Use a comparison sentence. Cute as a button. Loud as a lion. Sharp as a knife. Give examples. So if I'm writing, like this reminds me of my outdoor fun. if I use the word like toys, I could give examples like in another sentence, or I could even draw this cool thing like somewhere on my page. Like for my outdoor fun, I could use this. So I could put like outside toys in a circle, and then I could list some extra outdoor toys that maybe I didn't even include in my writing. Add big, bold words that are your important words. So think about what words maybe would like a pre-K kid or a kindergartner not know. Excuse me. So make those really important words big and bold. And sometimes we even use crayons to like color them to make them look really important. And this is something you could do. Add speech bubbles. And I'll show you an example of this in a real book too. And that's like to your picture. Add speech bubbles to your picture. So here is my boring chapter. Good information, but it's kind of boring. So I decided I use this chart. I actually used the chart and I picked out some to add to I rewrote this and I added more writing because once I rewrote, I thought of more stuff I knew. And then after I was done writing, I made it super fun. I got crayons out and I made it super exciting. Hey, babe, could you take the stuff out of that one? My lungs went up. Okay, so here's my chapter. Cute Cubs. It just looks more fun, right? Like, there's color, there's extra stuff, there's like squiggly lines, there's boxes. So it just looks better. So I'm going to read to you now. And then as I was writing, I actually thought of more information. Tiger females usually have 2 or 3 cubs at a time. Cubs are soft, light brown, fuzzy. I meant to say and fuzzy, so it's so good we're proofreading. And fuzzy. Okay. So let me start here. Cubs are soft, light brown, and fuzzy. Cubs play with each other to practice their fighting skills. So here I wanted to add a picture of 2 cubs fighting. So I need to practice my drawing. And then I already added my caption to remind myself what I wanted to draw. 2 cubs play fighting. So then I kept writing. At first, cubs drink their mom's milk. Later, they start to eat meat. Their teeth are sharp as nails. And so over here, I added 2 big bold words, females. And then here's where my definition of female is, a girl. Here's a bold word, cubs. And here's my definition, a baby tiger. And I use crayons and I match the colors. And then here, I did the example. So remember over here, my examples that I told you. So I thought, where could I add an example? And I thought, here is where I could add my example. So I went to the word meat. And if you follow my squiggly line, I have a list of examples of what meat they eat. Deer, buffalo, and pigs. So some of the meat that tigers eat. So from my chart, I haven't added a picture, but I plan on it because I used a box. I did already have a caption for it. I used some adjectives here when I described the cubs. Cubs are soft, light brown, and fuzzy. I used an example. I gave a list of examples. I have bold words and their definitions. And I even have a comparison down here. Their teeth are sharp as nails. So I'm going to tell you, I planned this kind of in my head before I started writing. So I kind of looked at this chart and I thought, what could I add to my chapter? Like, where could I add in a drawing? Where can I add in size words or shape or color or feeling words, like texture words? And then I thought about that. Where can I add in a comparison? And sometimes I might not be able to add all of these things in my chapter, depending on what I'm writing about. But I planned this out in my mind before I started writing this really nice chapter. So that might be something that you guys want to do before you start writing your fancy chapter, your really nice chapter. You might want to get a piece of paper that you're not using and just make notes. For example, I might just write down they're fuzzy, Cubs are soft, they're playful. A comparison, blank as a blank. I might even start off my next chapter just like writing some little notes, then having my notes out as I write my chapter. Okay, that's an idea. But here is my really good fancy chapter that's not boring, and it's so much better. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples in books. Yes.
Daddy,
Okay.
Daddy said this number for
Okay, there you go, baby. All right. Sorry. So I wanted to show you something that I didn't do. I didn't have the speech bubbles, but this book is silly because it does have speech bubbles. And it's silly stuff. So this one teaches you about sea creatures, and like this little krill has a speech bubble that says, "Back off, buddy." So these are silly speech bubbles. Or it could be a teaching speech bubble. For example, if you have a sea turtle, you might have a speech bubble and it might say, "I'm hungry for blank." And then you could tell me what turtles eat. All of these things are such a good way to make your book more interesting. This book on Sacagawea has fun facts. So if later you think of another something that you know about the topic, you could add a little fun fact box to the side. So today, I want you to think. You can even pause your screen here. If you want to pause your screen, that way you can have this on your computer as you are writing. Or this chart should be on our lesson plans for this week too. So your assignment today is set yourself a timer for maybe 15 or 20 minutes for you guys to write. Maybe rewrite one of your old chapters to make it boring. Maybe just take one of your chapters and just keep adding to it. Add some color, add some pictures, or start a new chapter today. But make sure you are choosing some of our author's craft to make your chapter more interesting. All right, guys, that's all for today. I will see you tomorrow.